I've seen you a couple of times, but I don't think we spent much time together. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that I met you when you came to Newmarket quite a number of years ago with Michael, and
Oh, yeah.
much younger.
Yeah.
And it was a weekend, if I remember correctly. But I know that you probably have no recollection of that at all. It's nice meeting you again.
Yeah, it's really nice to meet you. Thank you for agreeing to do this interview with me. That's really awesome. Thanks.
Not a problem. I'm kind of nervous. I don't know what questions you're going to
Oh,
be asking.
they're nothing too crazy.
Yeah, not a problem at all. As I told Michael, more than happy to help, and hopefully my answers are helpful to you. So,
Yeah,
yeah, ask away, and yeah.
awesome.
If you want any more, if I'm not giving you what you're looking for, please probe, right? I tend to get straight to the point. I give short answers, so you have to sometimes
That's
ask me to expand further.
no worries. Okay, so I guess I'll just start.
Yeah.
So for my first question, it's sort of an introductory question. What are some of the programs or events that Blue Door runs?
Oh, wow. Well, where can I start? There's quite a few. If I'm talking too quickly, let me know, and I can slow down.
Yeah, of
Right.
course.
First and foremost, Blue Door, throughout his history, has run three emergency housing sites, so three emergency housing programs, and I guess serving. People who are experiencing homelessness, right? And that starts with men, families, and youth primarily. Within those programs, we aim to move people out into housing as quickly as possible, out into permanent housing as quickly as possible, and we do that by also introducing interventions and programs within the emergency sites, right? A lot of those programs are based on connecting people into the community, so rapidly rehousing individuals and introducing them to housing opportunities, and landlords within the community, or housing options that are not necessarily private market either, right? So sometimes it could be through transitional housing programs, sometimes it could be through supportive housing programs. But we also ensure that we support people through case management as well, because the people that we serve have different needs. Some folks may need a bit more of a bit more of a heavier touch, I guess, or more of an intensive touch, especially if you're addressing things such as mental health and addictions too. So for those individuals, we offer more intensive case management. Really, all in all, we want to make sure that there is a theme in terms of integrating people or connecting people back to community resources. So a lot of that case management work entails connecting people, or wrapping supports around individuals, so that when they're ready to leave the program, they're able to better access healthcare in the community. They're better able to access the library, food banks, in different supports that they will need to attain longer stable housing, right?
Mhm.
Aside from our emergency housing program, we also have supportive housing programs within the community as well. We recently launched three programs: Abode, ABODE, Forward, FORWARD, and Inclusion, INNCUSION. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to spell
What a
on the
spelling.
fly. I probably got it wrong too. But those three programs are supportive housing programs, supportive transitional housing programs in the community. So what we've done is we've rented units out in the community, and we've identified three populations. Abode is for families, Forward is for seniors, and Inclusion is for 2S LGBTQ youth. And the idea around that is that when people come into emergency housing, they only have such a small amount of time to stay with us. For these three populations, we've supported subsets of those populations. So men, families, and youth. The subsets being families that may need to stay with us longer, and we're better able to support into permanent housing, not from shelter, shelter because they may need 4, 5, 6 months worth of work in order to have the conditions necessary to then have a permanent place, for example, right? We've identified senior men because we've seen that senior men are staying a lot longer with us. Shelter is not necessarily the most ideal place for them, so we want to be able to serve them from a community setting where if we are able to rent a house and have them share a house with 2 or 3 other people, we feel that that may be more conducive to us being able to get them to securing a place. Same with the 2S LGBTQ youth as well, right? We know for many reasons that youth from that population specifically don't feel very safe accessing shelters. A lot of it due to stigma or to violence that they may have to experience either in school or within the shelter system as well. So we want to make sure that we have a solution for that too. Another program that we've recently launched is Construct, and that's a employment linkage social enterprise. Really, really cool program. It's a social enterprise where we're able to generate some revenue, of course, to be able to reinvest back into our activities. But most importantly, with that is that we're training people to have skills that they can then use to transition into careers in the trades, right? And the very important partnership there is that we have a linkage to trade unions, and really the idea is to be able to facilitate the program participants into apprenticeship opportunities where they can then have a higher paying opportunity, and at the same time we are able to then lift them out of poverty and into a more stable housing situation. Another program that we also run is Housing to Health. And Housing to Health is a housing first program that we run in collaboration with 2 other agencies, Loft Community Services and Craftsman Center. Is based on a peer support model where we work with individuals that are chronically homeless. So individuals that have been homeless for many years sometimes, right? That probably haven't been in a housing situation for a long time. So now we're able to streamline them into housing and wrap supports around them so that they can better sustain that housing over a longer period of time. There's probably others as well, Irene, to be honest with you, that I hadn't mentioned, but I think that's a good snapshot so far. And, my apologies ahead of time if there's some that I've forgotten.
No problem at all. That's a really good, good general description of all the programs. So I guess kind of another sort of general question. Does the experience of homelessness differ for youth experiencing homelessness as opposed to adults?
Very, very much so, right? And not even between youth and adults, but you can also within the demographic that we serve, it's different from families as well, right? With youth, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is the life experience that they may not have, or the supports that they may not have had experience in their young lives, right? I mean, being an adult experiencing homelessness, you may there are some assumptions that you make that perhaps in talking to an individual, you may find out that perhaps it's financial hardship that has caused the episode of homelessness, or it may be some type of family breakdown, or it could be some mental health or addictions that have been involved, for example. With families, you often see a financial hardship or the breakdown in the relationship as the cause of homelessness. But what you see in both of those populations is that systems have already been in place for a while, right? With youth, they're leaving a home without much supports, right? So a lot of the times, school, they may not have completed schooling. So when you're looking at employment and you're looking at long-term sustainability of income, that's something that we have to consider, right? A lot of the times, due to the age as well, they may not have ever been employed either, right? So that also means that they're experiencing homelessness much differently. Um, with regards to stigma as well, they may not. It may be something that they're very well aware of in terms of how their peer groups may react to them having that crisis or that momentary hardship as well. And speaking about peer groups, that may change too for the youth, right? So if they experience homelessness, they may not. Some may become less attached to the peer group that they had before growing up, and may start being attached to a different peer group, and a group of peers that may also be going through the same experiences, right? So it may be poverty or homelessness. So yes, the experience is very much different. So the way that we work with youth has to be different than an adult.
Yeah. Um, so in relation to that, and with youth in particular, how do Blue Door's programs sort of like differ for youth clients, and what are some of the strategies that that your organization takes when working with youth in particular?
Right. I think first and foremost, not just specific to Blue Door, but in the region as a whole,
Mm.
youth are allowed to stay longer within emergency housing programs, right? So that's huge. That's really
Yeah.
important. When you compare that length of stay, youth are able to stay for up to 4 months within an emergency housing program. For adults, the expectation is 30 days, and I can tell you right
Mm.
now that it doesn't happen within 30 days, but right off the bat, I think it's very important to make that distinction. With the youth, there's a lot more. There is more of an effort to involve and to find out what other supports youth have, especially from family members and schools. So if we have a youth that is 16 and 17, we want to make sure that we connect to the high school that they may be attending, the guidance counselors that they may be connected to, for example. We also want to make sure that education is at the forefront of that solution too. If there is the slimmest of chance that we can keep a young person in school and engaged in education, the better the prospects, the better opportunities that they may have ahead of them. Right? If they do drop out of school, then we want to make sure to look at what other opportunities that they may have for them. So really, what we look at in terms of our intervention for youth, it has to be a more personalized experience, a more personable experience for them, because we're providing them with a lot more mentorship than I would say than we would with an adult or a family that comes in, right?
Mm. Yeah. And lastly, what kind of changes has COVID-19 brought to your field of work?
What changes hasn't it brought
Yeah,
to our field of
that's a good
work?
one.
I think I think it's a I think I can probably look at both positives and negatives of going through through the pandemic, right? If I look at some positive changes that have come about due to COVID, I think we've realized that as organizations in this field that there are that challenges that we thought were there before that were
Yeah.
unsurmountable. I think we realized with COVID that they're not so unsurmountable especially when we compare it to what we've had to adapt to the pandemic. And when I say that, I think I want to stress the notion that people can come together for a common goal. And when you're able to come together for a common goal, then you realize that those barriers that you had before can be overcome, right? Very early on in the pandemic, we realized that we had to break down those silos that we had as organizations and work together to quickly mobilize. So if we can quickly mobilize to deal with to adapt to a pandemic, why can't we quickly mobilize to look at specific issues that we all have in common, right? Just because we support people that experience homelessness does not necessarily mean that in our outreach or in our design of interventions that we don't engage other sectors and other partners to come up with a more efficient, a more streamlined solution, or a more complete solution for the folks that we're serving, right? So I think that's a huge positive. It's always been there. We've always been very collaborative, but I think COVID has kind of made us realize that we can be even more collaborative. I think the other positive to come out of COVID is that we've realized that we can mobilize really quickly and we can adapt really quickly, right? So with prioritizing our resources, we've realized that that things can still go on despite the pandemic, and we can still design programs that can deal with our current realities, and hopefully we can see we're seeding things that we can expand on, hopefully once the pandemic is over as well, right? Negative pieces around the pandemic, things that we've learned as well. I think a lot of it has to do with how access has been limiting to people because of the pandemic and the restrictions that are in place, and in the different sorry, I'm just gonna get some water. I'm running out of
No worries.
what we've realized with the pandemic as well is that because we've had to really react to and put measures in place to keep people safe, those same measures have also created barriers for people to access the services as well, right? Capacity has been reduced through the system. We now ask people to, isolate before they come in to service, for example. Those are all barriers that now people experience before they even get into emergency housing. For our other programs as well, I mean, for Construct, for example, the employment program, we've been limited in terms of being able to provide hands-on opportunities for folks because of the restrictions that we have in place as well, right? If COVID wasn't in place, then we'd have 8 participants out with us on job sites. But because those restrictions are in place, we've had to park that every time there've been the measures have been more restrictive. So right now, with a stay-at-home order, for example, we've taken all of our training virtual. But once those restrictions are lifted, for example, then we can take people back out into the community to do some of those jobs with us as well. So a lot of that has been, in terms of COVID and limiting factors, have been access to people. So there's been more barriers created, I think. But the piece around collaboration, the piece around realizing that things can keep going, and we can still thrive somewhat under COVID, I think has been very encouraging.
Thank you so much. That's all.
Is that it?
Questions. Yeah.
Did you need any more? I know that sometimes I go in tangents as well. So feel free to email me as well if there's anything else that you want me to expand on, or anything else that comes up, right?
Yeah, no worries. That was a lot of really great information. Thank you.
Awesome. I have to ask though, when you email me with Nicole's email.
Yeah.
What's up with that? I have to say that a couple of times I almost said I would almost reply. I would say, "Hi, Nicole." I was like, no, it's not Nicole.
Yeah, I got like my school gave me my email, like that's just what they gave me because my legal name is not my preferred name.
I see. So you are Nicole.
Yeah, legally everything's under Nicole, and that's just I don't know how to change that email. So
got it. I have to ask. I'm like, okay. So I didn't want to call you by the wrong name at all, but
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't take offense if people call me by that. I know it's like really confusing, so
Got it. Got it. Got it.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. And again,
Thank you.
if you
Yeah.
need anything else, just feel free to just shoot me a line,
Yeah.
and I'm more than happy to accommodate.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Take
And
care. Have a good weekend.
you too.
Bye.